Hello everybody and welcome back to another brand new Doctor Who video where it's, at least according to the Doctor Who social media channels, today is hashtag Dalek Day. And of course there's been a tweet along and rewatch thing of Resolution this evening, so I thought I'd have a little watch of it as well and give you guys my sort of general thoughts on it a couple of years since it aired. So yes, I think the logic they're using for it being called Dalek Day is because that's when the first part of the Daleks aired back in 1963, so I guess we can kind of give them that, and obviously rewatching Resolution is because, you know, we've got Revolution of the Daleks coming up next week, so it does kind of make a fair bit of sense, I think. But yeah, it's of course the most recent story to feature a Dalek in any form, when we saw the Recon Scout Dalek, the only Dalek of course featured in this story, nearly 2 years ago on New Year's Day 2019. At the end of Series 11 we just had that, and then we had this special before the gap year leading into Series 12. And so yes, I took a rewatch of the episode, I thought, just to give you guys a few just general thoughts on it, and also if there's anything sort of linking or suggesting and hinting at what we could see in Revolution of the Daleks as well. So what do I think of the episode itself, of Resolution? I think it is quite a good story. Like, I don't think it's some of the best Doctor Who ever by any stretch of the imagination. I think that generally Resolution is an improvement on what we see in Series 11, but I think a lot of Series 12 also sort of takes another step of improvement on top of that. So stories like Spyfall, like Fugitive, the Jadoon, like the Series 12 finale in general, in my opinion at least, I think is another step up on the sort of thing we see in Resolution. But I think for the first time in the Chibnall era, we really see a strong villain that was so lacking in a lot of Series 11. And a lot more kind of, to an extent at least, there's certainly the second half a more action-orientated story than a lot of what we saw previously. Yes, there are still the sort of same, well, the things that frustrate me with this episode are just some of the really slow, painful scenes, particularly the ones between Ryan and his dad, that kind of just are slotted in between moments of quite high interest, excitement, action. You sort of see the Dalek that's taken over Lynn. She's driving the car and being chased by the police. There's big dramatic shots of that, then kills a couple of the police officers and speeds away. And then we cut to like a 6-minute long scene, it must be, of Ryan and his dad having a chat about how he's a terrible father, basically, and, you know, how he should be better and all this with... And it's just not really compelling viewing in many ways, because we're not really that sympathetic with Ryan as a character, in my opinion, because he just hasn't been given enough character up to this point in Series 11 anyway. Apart from his nan died, Grace, that's about it, and his dad didn't turn up to the funeral. Like, yes, okay, that's significant stuff, but I don't know, it just doesn't quite fit right in the middle of this exciting Dalek story to just throw in this really, really long scene. It just sort of really breaks up the story and slows down the pace quite a bit, which I think is a particular problem in the first half of this story. Certainly towards the end when I was watching it, I was thinking how tremendously exciting it was in many ways. Once we finally reveal the Dalek for the first time in this story, they're sort of in its casing, fully ready, having that little face-off with the Doctor before it then flies away to go and kill lots of people. This is where it really starts sort of picking up a pace, I think, this story. It really builds the excitement. And you see a Dalek doing something that was so, in many ways, very lacking from the Stephen Moffat era of Doctor Who in particular, where we see a Dalek that actually kills lots of people in a very short order, very quickly, just bam, 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 kills people. And I think it's so important to show the audience how much of a threat a Dalek is, that just a singular Dalek can do this much damage. You know, it wipes out this whole army of people, a tank and everything. It blasts into GCHQ, clearly wipes out a load of people in there before turning up in there as well. And it's just that real ruthless nature of a Dalek and seeing it visually killing people that I think is so important to kind of maintain the threat of it and show it's not just a shouty sort of pepper pot, as some people might like to describe it as. And I think not that it was maybe intentionally portrayed that way in the Stephen Moffat era, but a lot of his stories, you think of Victory of the Daleks, which saw a few but not very many killings, then certainly like Asylum of the Daleks, virtually nobody's killed. I don't think even really any characters are particularly exterminated by a Dalek. It's certainly very minimal. The same with the Series 9 opening story, mentioned Apprentice, which is familiar. They don't really kill anybody in that story, I'm pretty sure. Into the Dalek is a little bit different. They do a little bit more killing there, but yeah, just a lot of the Dalek stories that Moffat wrote. As much as I love Moffat, a writer, and he did so many great things, I don't think he ever knew quite what to do with it, or to show the Daleks in their menacing sort of threatening way, in the same way that Russell did, for example, where, you know, there's been massive Dalek invasions and hundreds and thousands of people being destroyed, and you see that visually on screen, which I think is so important. So that was a real, I think, strength of this story, and something I'm hoping, and it certainly looks like from the trailer, that we're going to see a lot more of in Revolution of the Daleks as well. I do generally like the whole sort of idea of discovering this Dalek mutant, basically, that's been stuck on Earth for 1,000 years, 1,200 years, basically, that was in 3 parts but has now been sort of reactivated and being able to be teleporting back together, then attaching to Lynn and kind of becoming, gradually using her to become a Dalek. I think it shows a Dalek its most sort of, how clever and determined a Dalek is in many ways, that it's literally just a mutant. It's not even got a shell, it's got nothing, and yet it manages to attach onto a human, get her to a weapons factory that's got, materials designed to create a Dalek and weapons and everything, and become a whole Dalek again and be able to attack and destroy. I think it was so just sort of interesting the way to do it. And I don't think we haven't really seen a story like that with Doctor Who that I can think of, where sort of for a lot of the story, the mutant has been the focus and it's all about rebuilding that Dalek rather than just it being a Dalek and, that's it. It just goes around killing people. So I really, really liked and was intrigued by that kind of storyline that they used there. I think it was a great way to bring the Daleks back into Doctor Who in Chris Chibnall era Doctor Who. I think that was a really good opportunity to do that because, we hadn't seen a Dalek really in the show since the pilot. That was, of Series 10, I should clarify, the episode called The Pilot. And even then, is only a brief appearance. The last kind of proper Dalek story we got was Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar, but then that was kind of a Davros story, so you could say the last proper story was Into the Dalek in 2014. So, yeah, it'd been a long time since a proper Dalek story, albeit this story does only feature a singular Dalek, and I think and watching reading some of the interviews around this story, that was always Chris's intention. He wanted to kind of reintroduce the Daleks through a singular Dalek. I think in many ways to give the opportunity to show how deadly a threat they are, that even one of them can do all this damage, and all he's got to do is summon the fleet of Daleks, and that's it, the whole Earth is screwed, basically. And I think that's the sort of thing we're going to see in Revolution of the Daleks. Certainly the indication is that there's going to be a lot more Daleks we've seen on screen already in the trailer, and I think there's going to be a lot more destruction and chaos caused on Earth than what we saw in Resolution. I mean, as I have mentioned some flaws of the episode, I've mentioned it before, so I won't go into it too deeply, but the Wi-Fi scene is the worst scene in Doctor Who history, in my opinion. The completely unnecessary, breaks up the tension and the interest, the excitement, the building towards the end of the story, right in the middle of it. You're throwing a pointless comedic scene with 3 or 4 characters, a mum trying to do the TV, oh no, the Wi-Fi's gone off, we're going to have a conversation. Chris Chibnall must have been sat there laughing as he wrote that bit of dialogue, but it's just not even funny. It's not even slightly funny. It's just terrible. It is genuinely the worst thing in Doctor Who. I'm sorry, guys, but it's just so bad. Anyway, let's move on from that because I don't want to be too critical, but that scene out on its own is awful. And unfortunately, I don't know, I feel like Chris Chibnall maybe tries a little bit too hard to be down with the kids with some of his writing. It's just, he's not that good at kind of witty one-liners that are clearly trying to appeal to a younger audience. Like, the Doctor's says a line along the lines of, I've got great tech skills, and that's with a Z. As if it's really cool and funny to say skills with a Z. It's just, yeah. I don't think that's his strength, is writing witty one-liners for young people. He should focus on the drama and the action, and I think he can do that a lot better. So just a few smaller criticisms of just some of these lines that are a little bit clunky in the dialogue generally. There's a few, I think some of Ryan's dialogue in particular is not the best, but then, I don't know, maybe it's just the way he performed it wasn't nailing it. I don't know. There's just a few lines through the story where you're just kind of like, these aren't very good. They're not very good. So moving on from that maybe more critical viewpoint of the episode and some of the less good things, I think in general this is very much a strong story. It's a great reintroduction for a Dalek. I think it's a shame that we don't see any more Daleks, but that's clearly what Chris Chibnall was always going for. And it's nice we've reached the point now with a few days to go to Revolution of the Daleks to know that we're going to get a much bigger, more exciting, sort of just more epic in scale, I think, Dalek story featuring so many more Daleks than we ever saw in this story. And that's something I'm really, really looking forward to. So just quickly, what little hints can we take from Resolution that could affect Revolution of the Daleks? That's the question. So I think one of the key things, which is shown in one of the promotional pictures, I think, for this story, is the company MDZ Research, which in Resolution is where the Dalek goes to get all the weapons, Dalek weapons. It's talked about as it's some sort of technology thing that basically buys alien weapons off the black market, seemed to be the implication, and stores alien things, alien artifacts that they've sort of, acquired in suspicious circumstances, maybe. And it seems that that's going to play some sort of role. And I think my kind of fan theory for this is that it's going to connect to the creation of these Daleks that are being run by the Prime Minister, and it seems to be in conjunction with Jack Robertson in the special. I think that it's going to be something along the lines of how somehow MDZ Research have got hold of plans for what was the Recon Scout Dalek, and that's why the Daleks in the special are going to look the same as the Recon Scout Daleks, because we pretty much know, spoiler alert, we pretty much know that the gold Daleks are still going to turn up in this episode as well at some point. They're going to be kind of the proper Daleks that are going to turn up. but certainly for the Earth-based Daleks, it seemingly created Daleks on Earth. They're the Recon Scout design, which it's, I think, plans that have been discovered in MDZ research somehow. Maybe it's a company owned by Jack Robertson. Maybe that's how he's going to play into it, or he's bought into the company, or something along those lines. I think that's how it's all going to connect together. And then they're going to sort of, go rogue. But then the Gold Daleks will think that they're the wrong type of Daleks and take them out, and then take Earth out, and it'll be a lot of disaster. So I think that's the only real connection I can see that's going to be coming about from Resolution to this, because clearly that particular Recon Scout was killed. It was set off into a supernova, like it was dead. That's it. We're not seeing that one again. And as far as we know, he didn't get the signal out to the Dalek fleet as well. So I think they would have turned up by now if they were going to. So I don't think that kind of plays anything into it. It's more about this MDZ research company and the sort of effects that what they might be able to do depending on what sort of information they have hold of. So yeah, that's my quick little thoughts on Resolution and what to expect from Revolution of the Daleks. Guys, do let me know in the comments below what you think of Resolution as a special. Is it a pretty solid Dalek story, a good way to introduce the Daleks back into the show again? And yeah, just give me your general thoughts around that special, and as well any theories you want Revolution, or any little details that hint at Revolution of the Daleks from this story that I have missed. Please let me know in the comments below. Well, somehow we made it through a video where I keep saying Resolution and Revolution of the Daleks. It's really confusing, and it fits with the whole vibe. It's kind of annoying that they didn't call Resolution of the Daleks. It would have just made a nicer flow to it with Revolution of the Daleks and all the historical of the Dalek stories that we've had. But I think until about a week before it aired, for some reason, they wanted to keep it secret that it was Daleks, and then for some reason they were like, nah, we'll just reveal it anyway. So that was an interesting decision. But anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please hit the like button and the subscribe button if you're new here, and I'll see you again very soon for a brand new one. Goodbye!